Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about the origin of my name, the origin of my interest in first-person shooter gamings, and one of the biggest decisions, most important decisions that I've ever made in my entire life, and how that all ties into the Rainbow Six franchise, specifically Rainbow Six Original. The original Rainbow Six game literally changed my life for the better, and that's what I want to talk about today. The gameplay that you're seeing right now is Rainbow Six Siege, which is the newest iteration of the game. I know that Ubisoft has been really working hard on this one. They're pushing this one really hard. They want it to be a kind of a competing with Call of Duty and competitive and bringing the tactical back to tactical shooters. They're really hard about boots on the ground and realistic tactics and that kind of stuff. I've got some clips in the beginning that show some more action-y segments, but the game isn't really an action game. It's more of a tense, taut kind of chess game, thinking of move and counter move and position and counter positioning, kind of more like a real-life gunfight than the guns a-blazing of COD. You'll sit there and find yourself in a corner sweating bullets, wondering if they breach the left window or the right window, because that's the difference between life and death and sitting out the end of the round. Kind of interesting that they modeled like a lot of real-life buildings, because in Call of Duty and Battlefield or whatever, the buildings are kind of designed like a sandbox, like a game mode. Like there's only so many doors in so that you can camp some but not others, and it's just enough to kind of make it fair or skillful. Whereas with Rainbow Six, we're modeling real buildings and real situations, and which means there's a ton of windows, tons of nooks and crannies, lots of rooms that are dead ends, janitor's closets and stuff like that, which is what you would find when you're sweeping through a real building. And it plays really taut and tense and sweaty and counter-strikey and search and destroy, and it just brings back all those good memories of the original Rainbow Six. This is gameplay from a private beta, so it's likely to change before the final game comes out. If you'd like to play yourself, they're going to be doing a public beta in a couple of weeks to a month. They haven't announced the exact date yet, but it's going to be public, open, and completely free. If you're interested in Rainbow Six, if you'd like to pre-order this game, check out the beta, look at any of the information. I have a link, first one down there in the description, to the Uplay store so you can read all about the game. And again, if you're interested, I'd highly encourage you clicking the link and checking it out. And if you haven't noticed already, this is a sponsored video courtesy of Ubisoft, but I can talk about whatever it is that I want. And right now, I want to talk about the original Rainbow Six and myself circa about 1999, the year 2000. I was big into FPS games. I played the game Doom a lot and Wolfenstein. I would later get into Quake and Unreal, which I often say are like my first FPS games, but right after Doom, I ended up buying a game called Rainbow Six because it promised this fantasy of real-life tactical action, and I thought that I would be the best at this because I'm a genius, and you know, if it was anything remotely realistic, I could just show my genius. And I played it. I got Rainbow Six and Rainbow Six Rogue Spear, but I never once played it online, nor did I ever use the game to its full potential. I was, at the time, coming to age 12, 13, maybe 14-ish, probably about 12 or 13, probably not 14, and I was very confident in my way of doing things, which was a childish way of doing things. When I would play Rainbow Six, I would use cheat codes like mad to keep Chavez Ding alive, because he was the best character in the game. Didn't really like it when he died. I would kind of brute force the game. My planning was poor, move in, kill all the guys, whatever. The cheat codes that I were using eventually would make it to where I could not beat the game, or if I did play it without cheat codes, I was basically playing TDM, and the game was never an experience for me. This is going to sound like you're bashing the game or whatever, but I would just pick it apart. I treated that game just like I treated every other game before it, like a puzzle, trying to figure out what the creator wanted this AI to do in that situation, and checking out this bit of graphics and that bit of graphics, and I was very technical about it, but I was not at all interested in the experience of the game. I was just pulling it apart layer by layer, very meticulously, like kind of like children that like to do the same things over and over and over again, and I was also just playing like a big noob, and I didn't even know it until I found out that a friend of mine also played Rainbow Six and, of course, the expansion pack Rogue Spear. I went to his house, and he said he had much better internet than me, and he'd played online. He's like, "Oh, you should play this online." I'm like, "Why?" And he says, "You can play against real people." And it just like clicked to me that I can actually compete online and play against real people. And again, being the overconfident 13-year-old that I was, and I was like, "Oh man, this would give me an even better chance to show my real-life brilliant tactics or whatever," even though I was using cheat codes. But I ended up embarrassing myself completely because I went to play and none of his keys lined up with my key bindings at home. I thought what I was doing was standard. I had remapped all of the keys to essentially be Doom controls. I walked around with WASD, and I think I used the page up and page down buttons to make my character look up and down. So I'd play through Rainbow Six like super duper slow with my arrow keys, kind of GoldenEye style, and then I'd make him look up and down, and occasionally if I had to snipe or something, I'd use the mouse, and I'd pretty much never use any of the tactical equipment. And my friends bashed on me. They laughed on me. They thought it was hilarious. I insisted that it was the best because Doom was this way, and it makes sense that you move with your arrow keys, and that's how you should do it. And they bashed on me, and they laughed on me, and I got slaughtered online because I was still overconfident. And I told them, dude, I can take my arrow keys online. I can beat anybody. Nope, didn't get a single kill. Got massacred. It was humiliating. And a friend of mine, Evan, to his infinite credit, while tooling on me, forced me to use the WASD mouse combo, the good old WASD, you know, shift to sprint, crouch to C, use the mouse to shoot, and all. I was literally using spacebar to shoot while walking around with the stupid arrows, and he forced me to do it the right way, and it was awkward. But he was patient and let me play for quite a long time, and after like an hour, I finally realized I was bad at games, and I was stubborn, and I wasn't doing it right, and that this method was clearly better. And being the hard-headed, stubborn, but challenge-enjoying person that I was, challenge-enjoying? Is that really a word? I don't know. What I did is I went home, I decided to set all my controls back to default, and I was going to get online on my 56K at the time, a good old AOL dial-up, still got some of those CDs, and I was going to get better, and I was eventually going to get good enough to beat him at this game. But playing online is what got me hooked. Like, getting smashed the first time wasn't very fun, but my desire to get better led me to play lots of more people online, and for the first time ever, I was experiencing a game instead of just picking it apart like a kid just, you know, fiddling with his toys. In doing so, I also learned to love multiplayer games because a single-player game is limited to the programmer's creativity, only what the AI can do, and they are also designed to be beaten. No matter how difficult the AI is, it's designed to be beaten. It is, in a sense, it wants to die. It shows you its weakness, so to speak. People don't act like that. People don't behave like that. People are challenging. They're unpredictable. It's raw and it's real when you kill them. There's a real person complaining at you, calling you all sorts of swear words and saying they did terrible things to your mother last night. And that, to me, was just, it almost immediately replaced single-player gaming. It wiped away all that sort of stuff, and I was hooked on multiplayer gaming, and I started playing a lot, online a lot, and I got better, and I got better fast. Eventually, I joined a clan, and I changed my name. I was a goober at the time, using my real name to play Rainbow Six like a genius. I just had it as Brad something, and I changed my name several times. I kept trying to come up with a cool name. Wasn't that creative, unfortunately. My names weren't very great. It was like Skull Smasher, Death Dealer. I think The Matrix came out at some point, and I was like The One or Neo, or you know, things from movies, kind of what you'd expect from younger kids. And one of the most embarrassing things that I did, I was playing online, I didn't understand anything, and I thought that ping numbers worked the opposite of how they do, and the higher your ping number was, the better your connection was. So some guy with like 5,000 ping must have an awesome connection. And I was also the clan recruiter, genius, I know. So what I would do is I would go and find everybody with like a ping number like 500 plus, and I would ask them to join my clan because their connection was so good. I had a lot of people say F you and get mad and frustrated because I mean, they obviously thought I was being sarcastic and talking trash to them. I didn't know any better, but I had the laggiest clan on all of Rogue Spear. This clan was called Air Force One, or AF1 for short. We were pretty miserable, and we lagged a lot. I don't think we played nearly as many clan matches as we practiced. And I was really proud to be recognized for my skills, to be allowed to be in a clan, to have a recruiting position and all that kind of stuff. And my grandparents, they thought it was a terrorist plot to take over Air Force One because I explained the game and how tactical and realistic it was, and all these weapons. And because these old school games were actually a lot more tactical and realistic than the modern ones, which is kind of weird. The newer Rainbow Six, I feel like, has a little bit more health than the old ones. The old ones were pretty much 1 or 2 shots and you're dead, or maybe 3, or you kind of limp around. This one I feel like is a little bit more forgiving with the health, but it's also there's more restrictions on the weapons. Like the old ones, everybody was sniping or using like insta-kill assault rifles or whatever because of the game mechanics. This one's submachine guns and little pistols and stuff. They're not going to kill you quite as fast. Unless you shoot somebody in the head, that's still insta-death. But my grandparents, They listened to all this stuff, and they thought that I was on the computer using a simulator with Russians or whatever, and that we were planning and training in this digital environment to take over Air Force One and kidnap the president, because my stupid clan name was Air Force One. They pitched a huge fit and screaming, yelling. I remember my grandfather shaking a knife at me, and I eventually convinced them that this was not the case, and they told me to quit clanning. Of course I said I did, and of course I didn't. And during this time, constantly changing my names. And finally, one day, I saw a guy just in the chat, is that like a giant all chat? I think I was using GameSpy at the time, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time. There was a guy who had the name XXX Drifter XXX 666, like a kid's name. And you know, I kind of liked it for whatever reason. I was really attracted to the Drifter part of the name. And this was back in the days before there was no name registering. You could just change your name to whatever you wanted anytime and spoof it and all kind of stuff. So I just changed my name to Drifter, and I kind of liked it, and I kept it for a little bit. And when I moved over to joining Xbox Live, which was the next logical step for a kid at the time, Drifter, of course, was taken in seconds. But I was able to register a slightly different name, and of course this at the time was when you didn't actually have to show your gamer tag on Xbox Live. I think 3 of the 4 launch Xbox Live titles, you would only show your display name, so you could change your name anytime you wanted in-game, which was weird. And I eventually did try to get the Drifter tag, and I registered as Drifter on our clan forums, and then I lost the account, so I had to re-register as Drifter with an O instead of with a 0. And then, well, it was taken on this service and taken on that service, and then Drifter with an O was taken once the internet started blowing up in popularity. And I moved over to Drifter with a 0, which I still just pronounce it Drifter, but it's got a 0 because of leet spelling. And that allowed me to register a YouTube channel, the same one you're watching now, which I registered way back in the day of like 2005, 2006, something like that, like when YouTube was brand new. And all the other services I could easily register with Drifter with a 0. And, you know, of course I can't now because the popularity of the YouTube channel. Every single person has registered my name on every service that exists. So if you see somebody just with the name Drifter, he can be fairly confident that it's not me. I'm the real Drifter, Drifter Actual, Drifter 2, Drifter XXX, whatever, just all kind of nonsense. And I moved my clanning into Xbox Live. I was hooked on first-person shooters. That Rainbow Six game just sucked me in, and I was playing it like mad. Moved over to Xbox Live. I clanned on Xbox Live and on Unreal. Then I moved over to, I think we did Rainbow Six again at some point, and we did Counter-Strike, and we did all these kind of games. Eventually, the clan would start to fizzle out, and I moved that kind of gaming focus into machinimas on machinima.com. And when machinimas on machinima.com started to fizzle out, I would move that sort of gaming interest and focus over to gameplay, and now I have a YouTube channel. I'm a YouTuber, and I do this for a living, and none of this would have happened without the original Rainbow Six game and my desire to get better at it so that I could show up my friends, and it just put me on this kind of incredible path, and it's really amazing how important the small decisions are in your life and what they can add up to later on. I thought this would be an interesting story. I thought it would be worth sharing with you. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found the game interesting, the gameplay interesting. Again, if you did find the game interesting, there's a sign-up link for the regular beta down there in the description. There's also an annotation above the video to the official trailer, so you can check out some more details you might not have seen on my kind of awkward playing. And I just hope you enjoyed everything. Drifter out.